Okay, so there's this big question floating around, Is Disney the Magic Kingdom itself, actually, well, crumbling? Or is that whole narrative just missing the real story?
Yeah, it's a huge question. And honestly, that's exactly what we're diving into today. We want to cut through all that noise. We've got a stack of financial reports, strategic analyses,
Yeah.
the works. And the mission is really to pull out the key stuff, the surprising facts, the crucial numbers that show where Disney's really heading, especially, under Bob Iger again.
Right. And what we dug up from these reports, it might genuinely make you rethink things. We're kind of challenging that Disney is collapsing idea because, frankly, the data seems to point towards something else. A massive transformation, maybe painful, yeah, but one that's actually starting to show some pretty impressive results.
Exactly. It's less collapse, more strategic overhaul.
So let's talk about Iger coming back. What was the deal there?
Late 2022, right? Yeah. Late 2022. And it wasn't just, new CEO. It felt more like an urgent intervention, His job was basically stabilize the ship and get it back on course for profitable growth, sustainable growth. So this second act for him, it's really about consolidation, discipline.
Yeah.
Not just endless expansion like before.
Okay, discipline. What were the priorities then?
Main things were getting the film studios buzzing again, making streaming actually profitable, shoring up ESPN for the digital age, and his term, turbocharging the parks and experiences. It boils down to making Disney smarter, leaner, more efficient.
And leaner definitely means cost savings. How aggressive were they on that front? Where did the cuts happen?
Oh, incredibly aggressive. They first aimed for, what was it, $5.5 billion? They upped it to about $7.5 billion in savings annually by the end of fiscal 24. And a huge chunk of that, like $4.5 billion, was specifically slashing content spending for entertainment.
Wow.
Yeah. It's not just trimming around the edges. It's a fundamental reset,
Yeah.
moving away from that growth at all costs streaming model to something more curated, quality over quantity maybe.
That's a huge operational shift. So, okay, the big picture financials. Does the data really truly push back against this collapse idea?
Absolutely. I mean, the numbers are pretty clear. Revenues held up, actually grown from about $83 billion in fiscal 22 to $94 billion for the year ending this March. But the real story, profitability. Just look at the second quarter of fiscal 2025. Income before taxes, it surged over 100% year over year, hit $3.1 billion.
Over 100%.
Yep, and that translates to diluted EPS, basically profit per share of $1.81. Compare that to a loss the year before. That signals pretty strongly, I'd say, that the cost cuts and the focus on getting streaming into the black, it's hit a real inflection point.
Okay, so profits are up dramatically. How did the stock react?
Well, after being down for a while, Disney stock actually delivered a 25.6% return over the last 52 weeks. That beat the S&P 500. And remember, the PE ratio, the price to earnings, it was crazy high, like 285 back in 2021. Unsustainable now. It's normalized, down to a much more reasonable 24.74. That suggests investors are looking at actual earnings now, not just hype. Confidence seems to be returning.
Makes sense. So how are the different parts of Disney doing? Where is this turnaround coming from specifically?
Well, the bedrock is still experiences, parks, resorts, the cruise lines. That division is just a powerhouse. It pulled in $2.5 billion in operating income in Q2 25 alone. That's a 28% margin. Huge. And they're pumping, over $30 billion into the U.S. parks over the next decade, plus basically doubling the cruise fleet. So massive investment there.
Okay, parks are strong. What about entertainment? That's where the streaming wars were bleeding cash, right?
Right. But here's the big news. Direct to consumer, so Disney Plus and Hulu combined. Profitable, finally. They posted an operating profit, $336 million in Q2. How? Price hikes, bundling, and those strict cost controls we talked about.
And the movie studios, there was talk of franchise fatigue.
Yeah, there definitely was.
Right.
But 2024 was a huge rebound. They grossed almost $5.5 billion worldwide, back to number one studio. Think Inside Out 2. Deadpool and Wolverine both hit over $1 billion. So the blockbusters are still hitting.
Okay, so streaming's profitable, studios are rebounding, parks are booming. What about traditional TV? ESPN.
Linear TV, cable channels, it's declining slowly as expected, but it's still very profitable. It generates cash that helps fund everything else, especially the digital shift. The big play there is ESPN. The full standalone streaming service, Flagship is the code name, I think, launching fall 2025. That lets them go straight to the cord cutters, monetizing that massive sports brand directly.
Yeah.
Big potential.
And it all ties together, right? The Disney flywheel thing.
Exactly. That's the unique advantage.
Yeah.
A hit movie like Inside Out 2 isn't just box office. It drives Disney Plus signups, then sells merchandise, then fuels new theme park rides.
Yeah.
It all feeds each other. That synergy, that cross-platform monetization. No one else can really do it at their scale. It's very defensible.
So there are still challenges, maybe some Marvel worries.
Sure, headwinds exist. They know about potential Marvel fatigue. They're cutting back output, focusing on quality. But honestly, the tailwinds seem much stronger. Those massive park investments, the ESPN direct launch, even that $1.5 billion they put into Epic Games for some kind of new gaming universe, those are huge growth levers.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the key takeaway for you listening to this? I mean, the data just doesn't support that collapse narrative, does it?
Not at all. It shows a company deep in a tough but seemingly successful strategic turnaround. You see it in the streaming profits finally arriving, the studios bouncing back, the parks continuing to be, well, parks. Super strong.
And that flywheel, that synergy is key to their future, you think?
Absolutely. It's their core competitive advantage. That IP engine driving everything, that's what propels them forward. Those future investments just amplify it.
So maybe a final thought to leave folks with.
Yeah, maybe think about this. We're in this age of constant media chaos, right? Information overload. What can Disney's really disciplined approach, rebuilding, focusing on core strengths, leveraging assets teach us? About resilience, about adapting, not just for media giants, but maybe for any business facing a totally new landscape.
Yeah.
How much is it about just getting bigger versus getting, smarter, leaner, really efficient, something to chew on?